Hello and welcome to Was That in Good Taste? Your podcast where we peer pressure each other, make each other drink too much, mostly me, and reminisce about the better days. As always, of course, I am your indomitable host, James, and I'm joined, as always, by the funny, by the hilarious, by the comedian,
Chandler Phillips. Thank you. Oh, no, you're too kind. Thank you so much. Oh, no.
Just stop the music. There you go. Oh, hold on with the applause. Hold on to the applause.
Okay, I said knock it off.
This week, we're talking about our college experiences, what it was like to be in college, while also a little bit about peer pressure in college, because I went through a lot of that, of course. First, like always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow, give me tummy rubs, head pats, affection, adoration.
If you hold a sugar cube with an open palm, we'll eat it from the hand. Don't be scared. We won't bite your fingers.
I like how. And today, first, oh man, this is going to be wild. So I decided that I wanted to try this cocktail because we were very lucky. We got these free little gifts from, I think it's barcharts.com, one of our awesome
I
followers.
feel like cocktail is a bit of a stretch for what we're trying.
It's a cocktail.
Because I guess, yeah.
Well, it says here cocktails, right?
Well,
we're
so-
not sponsored by them, by the way. This was a gift. If you want to sponsor us, though.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I'm saying? One of them's a bar guide. One of them's a cocktail guide. But the one that we're drawing on for inspiration today is the shots guide.
Bartender's guide
To
shooters. You know me. I'm a shooter.
Shooters be shooting.
Bam. Call me a roadman.
So, what is that? I saw
That's like a
discourse about it.
Oh, that's like British gangsters. You know, they wear the shiesties. Oh, you bruv.
I'm just thinking.
Run your trainers, bruv.
I'm the highway man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Only it's the road. I like how I had to look for it because it's in alphabetical order.
I had it pulled
Oh
up
wait,
to
no,
it.
it's Jägermeister, right? But it's called a NyQuil.
Yeah, it's in the ends.
It's in the ends.
That's hence why I was singing in the ends.
Oh, okay.
That's what started the entire song and dance in this pre-show warm-up.
It's a NyQuil, which is vodka. This is actually caffeine-infused vodka because why the hell not?
Caffeine and taurine. It is V2. It is the name of the vodka, because it's how many strokes of the engine, right?
Oh,
V2.
yeah.
It's a whole lot of engine. And then what you got there?
I feel like the epitome of the college experience for not me. That's kind of the reason why I got it, because I used to see a lot of people from like Fordham University and stuff. They used to get this. Not me. This is not what I was drinking in college. But I feel like Jaeger bombs.
I did drink it in college, but it wasn't my drink of choice in college. But I do know a handful of people who did think that Jaeger was like the premium of sipping alcohols or shooting alcohols. They just had really high opinions of Jaeger.
Is it not?
It's not bad. Have you had it?
It's been here. So okay, hilarious. So actually, when I was working at a bar, all these college kids would come in and they would get Jaeger, and I remember being like,
gross.
"Why are you drinking this weird licoricey tasting thing I had once warm with a Red Bull?" And I think I was wrong. Ice cold Jaeger has this nice, interesting, cooling, refreshing effect.
Well, and if you can see on this, we got a nice little frosty glass going on over here that really lets you know that this Jaeger is at optimal consumption temperature.
And we're going to ruin that by talking about college while recklessly drinking against your will. What was this, 1 ounce?
Yeah.
I like how I had to add recklessly drinking Jaeger, you first.
Oh, God.
With food coloring.
The vodka.
This is vodka colored green.
Because it's thematic, right? That's the point.
That's about right. Oh, that's not enough, right?
Just keep going. Just fill it to the brim.
Shopping it everywhere. And then for shits and giggles, because I want to see how this looks on camera.
Oh, that looks fun.
It does look a little bit like that NyQuil. Oh, that looks so muddy and
that
gross.
is the you have your Boston shakers, your standard shakers. That's actually a college shaker. Is you just take two solo cups and just kind of pass it back and forth, and then boom, then you have a daiquiri.
Oh, that is not correct.
Yeah, no, it was like 3/4.
It's a quarter of an ounce.
Yeah, it was 3/4 with the vodka and then a quarter Jaeger. But see, here's the thing: you already poured this up and set it in front of me.
I like how the whole thing was that I'm pressuring you,
and I'm gonna be like,
and
well,
you're like,
it's there.
actually, okay. So let's try this again with the correct proportion. Okay, that looks. As I spill it everywhere. Woo! College woo!
Zamboni.
Look at that. There we go.
Okay, that looks much more like NyQuil, or at least Z-Quil. You ever fuck with Z-Quil? It's just,
Never, because isn't that just NyQuil with all the stuff that hurts your tummy?
Yeah,
I like the tummy hurting stuff.
It's just the stuff to make you go to sleep.
So, okay, here's the thing. We're gonna take the shot, and then I want to launch into college stuff. But here's the thing: we're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna tell our college tales, and I think it'd be fun as we start our college tale. We just have a sip.
Have a sip, or just have
a shot. We're shooting.
To precede
Come on,
each
come on,
college tale,
come on.
or like,
come on, weakling, come on, lady, come on, woman, because I'm I'm embodying the heteronormativity of being in college, being a frat.
if you're gonna insult a college kid, do it right. Come on, freshman.
Come on, freshman.
Drink. You've only been here a few months. You better drink. Who do you even know here, bro?
So here's the thing. I want to start by just going over our basic college experiences.
Yeah.
Because in case you're new here and you don't know, I'm born and raised in New York. Born in Brooklyn, raised between Harlem and the Bronx, and now residing in Brooklyn. And you're from?
I'm from Sacramento, California, and I went to college in Santa Barbara, California. But for those unfamiliar with the geography of California, it's about a 6.5-hour drive south, and it's a coastal college, where Sacramento is an inland city, also the capital of California.
California.
And so I went from living in the city of trees to living in beautiful Goleta on the beach with the summer breeze. Never got below 58 degrees and never got higher than 92.
Talk about a different college experience.
God.
Okay, talk about a different college experience. So what school was that again?
University of California, comma, Santa Barbara.
You went to UC Santa Barbara? Whoa. I didn't realize you went to UC Santa Barbara. So that means that you were hacky sacking?
Oh, I was hackying and sacking.
You were smoking a lot of the sticky icky?
I was partaking.
Did you sell weed? Because everybody I know from UC was like, you know, Ethan Klein went to UC. It's like everybody goes to UC. You are a comedian. If you succeed, you're gonna be like, yeah, you know, you're Jewish. Now you live in New York.
Yeah.
But you went to UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah. I'm a walking trope. And I wouldn't say I sold weed, because I did not attempt to profit from any of these sales. We'll get into some of these stories later on, but
have you ever tried to join a frat?
No, I've never tried to.
Did they have frats?
They had frats. Greek life just wasn't nearly as central.
See, I'm pouring. I'm just against your will.
Yeah, Greek, like there was a Greek life. There were fraternities. I had friends who did try to join fraternities. My freshman year dorm roommate pledged and eventually got into a fraternity. And through that entire process, all I could think of is, why?
What's Greek life?
What is it like? Or like,
what is Greek life?
Greek life is just the
These might be bigger than I thought.
Yeah, these shot glass. That's the tricky thing about solo cups is they're always a bit bigger
Oh
than
my
you
god,
expect.
they literally have markings on the inside too. Just like right. Anyway,
They're
Greek
to
life.
scale.
That's the frat life.
Yeah, that's the alpha, delta, pi, whatever the thing is. There were so many, and I never cared enough to learn what any of these any of these Greek letters meant. I just see them, and people will go around and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm part of something chi omega," and I'm like, "Neat." That's cool. So like what do you do for fun aside from exclusionary just like
And drinking Jaeger.
yeah, drink it. They didn't even have I didn't even go to that many frat parties because I didn't go to parties at all, really. Like I lived on the main party street. It's Del Playa, which fun fact, you could tell the newbies there when they would say, "Do you know where the Del Playa street is?" And you're like, "Listen, baby, Del means the." So you're just kind of it's like saying ATM machine and
It's like saying non-bread.
yeah,
It's like
exactly.
saying chai tea.
Exactly. And so it was just a little giggle because anyone, if you know, you know, it's just DP, and everyone
Loves
was
DP.
looking for DP.
I love DP.
I'm a fan.
Can I be honest? I'm kind of thinking about just get everybody together, just move to the West Coast.
God, that would be so much fun. And like the actual coast part of it, beautiful, gorgeous.
So you went to like a city school, but like a nice one, effectively.
No, I went to like
It's a state college. Sorry.
it was a state university. So in the California university system, there's two like levels of public school universities. The first being Cal States, and then the second being what is it? Universities of California, which like I don't want to toot my own horn.
But UC is the one.
UCs are the one, and then there's like the Cal State. So like Cal State Berkeley or Cal State like
I know Berkeley, of course. Everybody knows. I mean, to be honest, you didn't go to Berkeley.
I didn't go to Berkeley. I went to Santa Barbara. You know why? Because the beaches are better in Santa Barbara.
That's interesting because, of course, being from New York, I have a completely different college experience. Originally, I had to get my GED because we moved. So we moved in the middle of my last year.
Is that when you went down south?
Yeah, yeah. So I very briefly went to a college there. I don't really want to say it because it's annoying because it's a great school and I didn't get to finish there. Instead, I went there for a while. And then when my grandfather had a heart attack, I came back to New York and went to a trade school.
Oh.
And I took that shit over.
You took over the trade school?
I took over the trade school.
You said, "Look out, world. James is in town."
So I kind of want to know about like your life in school, what it was like, you know? And I figured we would go back and forth while I ply you with liquor.
And then we would trade
Oh.
schools.
Oh.
Ah?
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, I wish I would have had a little bit more trade school education in general, but I thoroughly enjoyed my college experience. One, because the place I was in, the location was beautiful. Two, the friends I made along the way, great friends. They will be in my social networks. They will be dear friends for the rest of my life. And then thirdly, it was the first time I got to do interest-oriented learning, where like I like I like school. I'm a big old nerd dork, and I like learning about things that kind of get my brain a buzzing. This was the first time I got to pick and choose which things I got to learn and got to like throw myself into, and that for me was like one of the biggest pleasures of education. The one thing I think that's just kind of keeping me from wanting to pursue even higher education is I kind of became disillusioned with the institutions of academia. And like once you kind of realize that these institutions, That's okay. First of all, I studied sociology. I majored in sociology, and
He went to UC Santa Barbara for sociology. Isn't that what Steve Jobs went to Berkeley for?
can I tell you that UC Santa Barbara's sociology and psychology departments were the highest nationally ranked in the nation. Sorry, that was redundant. For the years that I was there. And so like for the thing that I was studying, I was doing it at the best possible place to do it. And I didn't even really realize that. I was just like, you know what? I kind of want to make sure that if I wanted to go to law school, I would have something that's geared toward a pre-law program. But ultimately, I wanted to be a professional people watcher. You know, that's what sociology is. It's just watching people, seeing how they interact with the world around them. The way I would describe the discipline, separate or like how to distinguish it from other social sciences, is where psychology is studying an individual's motivations and like behaviors in terms of internal processes. Sociology is understanding individuals' behaviors and motivations due to external processes. And I think that was just a really eye-opening experience. I got to learn so much. And then even the general education stuff that were like throwaway classes, I had a lot of fun. I took a world music class and got to learn about like different percussion instruments across the world. I took an earth science class that was just dinosaurs. It was just dinosaurs, James.
This explains a lot. This actually explains you were just college Chandler in New York.
Yes. Dude, I signed up for that class and people were like, oh, it's one of the toughest classes to get into because everyone wants to sign up for this elective. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to make it work. We're going to put it on our like our make-a-wish lists or like the backups, like the ones that you're like, if I don't get into this class, the ones that I actually need, throw me in the dinosaurs class. And I tell you, 5-year-old Chandler was sitting in that lecture hall looking at cladograms of how saurischans and ornithischians derive from a singular diaspsid, which has to do with the way the jaw muscles connect to the skull, either via 2 holes or 1 hole. 5-year-old me was like, we did it. We made it. We peaked. We are studying dinosaurs. Everything that we have to care about right now is about I got to hold a megalodon tooth in the palm of my hand. That was fucking sick. It was it took 2 hands. It took 2 hands to hold this giant shark tooth.
You were a child though, right?
I was.
You think it was like what, a foot?
Huh?
You think it was like a foot, like actually, like maybe 1 foot in length and like 3 or 4 inches in diameter? It was like 2 feet. Or was it like 5 feet?
Wait, you talking about the tooth?
The tooth. Or was it like really like 15 like light because it's like a fossil but like huge?
Well, so they had like a contemporary great white shark tooth, which like it fits about the palm of your hand, and then they had megalodon tooth, and it fit like it wasn't like multiple feet long. There was a T-Rex cast or a skull of or a what am I trying to say? It was a skull of a T-Rex that was casted and then like so it wasn't the actual fossil, but it was like that's the guy. And I'm like, I love your work. I loved you in Jurassic Park, and it was kind of like seeing a celebrity a bit.
Are you concerned that because you touched the tooth of the Meg, that the Meg might seek you down in New York? Is that why you moved to New York? Were you afraid to go to the ocean?
I had to transfer oceans.
Because you thought that the Meg was going to come and get you?
I was like, the Pacific Meg has my number now. I gotta go to Atlantic because that's okay. For those of you who don't know really any marine biology, there is a massive megalodon that just peruses the Pacific Ocean, stalking upon ships in the night, or even sometimes sperm whales and the like. In the Atlantic, though, is the Leviathan, the Kraken, and that is much more a deep water. Like you're in the open. There's currents. There's a lot more going on. They prefer warmer waters, really. And so I left the threat of the Pacific Ocean to go to the Atlantic because I know that if there's a Kraken out there, they're not gonna mess with me. They got other stuff to do.
You're not a pirate.
I'm not a pirate.
You're not in the high seas.
No.
Everybody knows that Megs leap onto land sometimes and cause floods and eat people.
Well,
in like the slightly less shallower waters of the Pacific. But in the Atlantic, Krakens?
No.
It's like halfway between here and Europe.
It's Krakens are kind of like NYPD, where it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't drink open containers, but they got other stuff to worry about. They got like, there are other things that a Kraken has to. A Meg, they can just up and Sharknado onto land, and then boom, you got to taken out an entire metropolitan city.
And here's me, when you first said there's a megalodon running around the Pacific, going to ask you if it was a real megalodon, because okay, this is like, because I didn't go to school for sociology, so I don't know anything about marine life, but but I always felt like okay, it's interesting that because there are deep sea fishes, fishies, and people always say we don't know. We know because we have we don't go to the deepest part because we know what's down there. It's like nothing. It's like some fish we never known. There's no gigantic, huge monster fish, but there could be.
But there could be.
And then when you said that, I thought for a second, is this like a thing on the East Coast that we just don't know? Just like how you guys have earthquakes and shit. And I actually don't understand. Like, I understand earthquakes.
Tectonics.
And as a person who's experienced the one minor one, but like, we don't really have them here.
I just thought of a really fun college story that...
Tell us your fun college story, and I'm a...
So,
Like, before you take the college story, here's the thing. You cannot.
We're getting through this.
No, we're not. What are you talking about? Come on, new kid.
So, I lived junior and senior year in an apartment that overlooked the ocean, but it was on a cliff. It was by far the best real estate I will ever live on in the foreseeable future. 6 roommates in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that was literally dangling over the cliff, over the ocean. There was a time...
That sounds so fucking amazing. That actually sounds... I know I'm always like, oh, New York. I access, social, all that, A+. But like, you gotta take a bus or go to school upstate to get that. Or downstate, downstate.
Yeah, it was so pretty. But there was one time I'm sitting on my college couch and just, scrolling through Instagram, TV's playing in the background, whatever. I think it was like a paused game of Super Smash Brothers Brawl. No, it was Project M because we were on that. Smash was like a household staple. You know how some guy friend groups will like rip on each other like super hard in order to establish social hierarchy?
No.
Well, that's because you don't have too many male friends who aren't like just awful people. So we like, instead of doing like we're just gonna break each other morally like we did in high school, instead this friend group said we're just gonna skip over that and we're gonna use our strengths and weaknesses. Whichever video games we're playing, whoever is winning and whoever is dominant at the popular video game at the time, they're the social leader. That's just pack mentality. Going back to the story. So I'm chilling there, and all of a sudden I see the picture frame on the wall just start to jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And I was like, am I really high? And like getting the weird spins, or is something happening? And things start shaking a little bit more. I'm like, oh, this is an earthquake. This could be it. This could be it right here, because there have been houses that just slid off the cliff into the ocean, and then it was done. Like that was a wrap. So for about 5 minutes, I was sitting on this couch thinking, okay, either this is it. We're about to Atlantis into the ocean.
You're not here right now. just saying.
I
You didn't make it.
I didn't make it. Or it's just one of those that you don't have to worry about. Turns out I didn't have to worry about it, but it was one of those like moments where you just kind of have an existential reflection of like, well, if this is how I got to go, this is how we're going to go. And that was a cool little reflection of just existence. And we talk about like the difference in the existential threats of the East Coast versus the West Coast. Earthquakes fuck with you, man. Earthquakes fuck with you heavy. And there has to be a certain level of like nihilism, but like positive nihilism that it takes in order to just kind of grapple with the fact that at any given time, it could all just go away.
That's interesting because as we don't have that threat, I think that perhaps somebody from the West Coast might not realize that a storm, how terrifying truly a storm can be. You know, you have fires, you have earthquakes, but we have storms that go up to 6 floors.
That's
and
wild.
you know, and that's like, it doesn't happen frequently, but when it happens, it's terrifying. And it's interesting because that did happen when I was in college.
Was that Sandy?
That was Sandy. It was at 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because first, I went to a trade school. I went to the trade school second because I had to come back to New York. I'm not trying to say anything, but I went to like a good school, and then I went to a trade school.
Real quick, what did you study initially, and then what did you study?
I
at
studied the
trade
same
school?
thing. First was computer science, and then it was industrial electronics and networking technology. It was like a double track. Side note,
Huh. Did you have credits that transferred over?
I had credits to transfer that over. I have all these credits, and then the school got shut down 3 years after I left. And so, all those years and effort, because what happened was is that a city university was given not ownership, not guardianship or whatever of like the stuff for the school,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't go, and I didn't get my documents because what do you call it, like when somebody has not ownership but like they're legally in charge of. So like one of the senior universities was given ownership of the school
Mm-hmm.
so that you could go for a period of 2 years, get your documents, get your degree and stuff like that, you know, get like your transcripts. I didn't do that.
Wait, was this over University A or Trade School B?
Well, this is trade school B.
Okay.
So when they closed,
You just didn't have access to any
I
of it?
didn't go
Oh, no.
to the city university to have my transcripts because I didn't want to. I don't know. I just was like a different person back then, and I was like kind of lazy.
Did you know that you had to do it? And was
I
just
didn't
kinda
know
putting
until
it
kind of late.
off?
And I kind
That'll
of
do
waited
it.
to the last minute.
Mhm.
So I went to school for nothing. I guess I never went to school. But when I did, I owned that shit. It's so weird. So I ended up taking a computer science course, and the Professor Lau, was awesome, right? He was an older Chinese man. He was great. He was the president of the IT CERT Club. That was the club that would go to conferences, right? You would just go to a conference, and it costs money to enter a conference, or it did, and then you could take as many tests as possible. So I would just go get certs, and then usually, if you take those tests, if you failed, you would have to pay to take it again, but not at the conferences. The conferences, you just have to wait like an hour or two, take it again. So we would just go and just take certs over and over again. He was also the professor who was given, because I don't know if you, in college, usually a professor is put in charge of the club, of a club.
Yeah.
He was in charge of the IT CERT, the Success Club, which is like a kind of a general club for like, I guess like the top students or whatever. The IT CERT, Success, the Math Masters, and the Engineering Club.
You want to be a math master? Pokemon.
I became the president of all four
You were in this professor's back pocket.
because he liked me and I liked him. And here's the thing about trade schools is that I went to a good university in Georgia, for engineering. So that means you know which one. And then
wink.
Then I ended up going to the school, and I'm not even that smart. When I first went to the school in Georgia, I had to take a remedial math course because I had such a hard time in school, generally, except for math. I mean, I had an easy time except for math, but I had a really hard time in school. I had to take a remedial math course. You know what I mean? I had to take like a no credit 2-semester math course.
Like a catch-up course.
Yeah, because I just wasn't good at math. And so when I went to this trade school, I was like king shit.
You're like, yeah, we've done this. This was first year shit.
So at first, I want to join the club. So I go to the club meeting, right? I join the club, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna join the club. Then I was like, oh, I'm the professor for the club. So usually you don't sign up for 5 clubs, but he was the singular professor in charge of those clubs because he was like the most tenured professor in the school. So I was like, Mr. Lau, Professor Lau, I'm gonna join all your clubs. Then he took the Success Club out for lunch. And they were all students that were doing really well. Because I had joined all his clubs, he took me with them.
Were you one of the students?
Well, no, I was a freshman.
Doing really well. Oh.
I was a freshman.
Uh-huh.
You know, so he took us to Chinatown, and I had a great cultural experience, right? This is the kind of thing that I feel like you can get in New York. You can get other places, but you have to like drive and stuff. Yeah. You know, having a professor be like, actually, the class is ending 15 minutes early. Y'all do this. Then he takes like 6 members of one club out to Manhattan, which is a different borough, which somewhere else, it'd be a different town. You know what I mean? It'd be like maybe a different city or a different town. You might have to drive 15, 20 minutes. But we were in Manhattan already. So we took a train 2 stops. He took us to this awesome place. It was a place for Chinese workers. And you would go into the place, and everybody was Chinese. They didn't speak no English. And it was like a buffet style. And literally, it was like $6 or $7. And it was some food, you know, like some fried rice and some lo mein, but it was like pig feet and snout and foot, you know, gizzards, like stuff that the Chinese workers would eat. You know, like, because it was effectively cheap. But like, you know, it's all the contractors and, you know, and it was some of the best food I'd ever had. And this professor made me the president of all the clubs.
It wasn't an elected process?
No. Because it's a college, right? Now, this is...
Listen, I don't really know how club politics work.
I mean, inside of the club,
I wasn't involved in like any extracurriculars except for like one, and that was more like an auditing kind of thing. But sorry, continue.
No.
I'm unfamiliar with the politics. Is you're like, they made me president.
Well,
they made me their king.
To speak of politics, so that's the thing, is that effectively the way that it usually works is that you can have elections and stuff, right? All the people in the clubs liked me, so they were cool with me being president. So there was no need, because I was the person willing to go to the club day in the second year and do the organization with Professor Lau for all the clubs. Right? You know,
You're the one putting in that behind the scenes work.
So of course, I became the club president. And because of that, because you mentioned of politics.
Politics.
On the basement level, there was an office for the student government that was shared with the student body president, the vice president, and I guess their student body cabinet. Then there was another office for the tech clubs, which was the math masters, the IT cert, the success,
and just all of
the engineering. Because the success, not really.
You had an entire fucking office to yourself.
So I had.
You practically were a professor.
So
what?
Literally down the hall, there was like another office for some like. That was shared between 3 clubs. My office.
You're over there sitting like, in the office of the president. There are certain rules and ethics that can go out the window because you're the president. you're allowed certain freedoms within your own office.
That's how oh God. Ugh. That's how I came to run. Though I literally became like a figure. Um, I have more stories about this. I'm gonna throw it to you, but I just need to say that it was in the basement. There were a few offices for a few different clubs, but in the very back, it's like think an arrowhead because it's like the basement. It's like a hallway, but it was in the end. It was two offices
That
with
kind
two
of
doors
pinpointed, yeah.
across from each other, but at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like an arrowhead, and the other office was often empty. And I would be by my fucking self in this office. I'm gonna tell you something. Oh, there's more, but that's a different story. Were you cool in Were you cool in college, Chandler?
I like to think that I was somewhat of a spiritual leader myself in college.
Oh, tomato, tomato, tomato.
So one of the bullet points that I have in my notes section for this episode is ocean breezes and ego deaths. And I feel like that kind of perfectly encapsulates my college experience. My freshman year, within like a week of being there, I still didn't have like a good weed connect. But from my like late high school experience, I was like, hey, if I'm going to mentally adjust to this new space, I'm going to need a little bit of recreational help. And so I was searching out like weed connects, but you're a broke college kid, freshman year. There was a couple of things where I was like, I'll see if I can get a job there. Da 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 da. Nothing really ever panned out. And so in order to kind of just kind of help pad out what what I had, I kind of got really into salvia for like a couple months. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Oh, ew.
Yeah, so
You were desperate.
yes.
Can I just get my sister's ex-boyfriend, when he was desperate for weed, salvia had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally salvia dropped. Because you asked
like,
about it.
It was in the like middle period between like when weed was just readily available and then when like kratom kind of took over.
For people who don't know, these lab grown or lab organized chemicals are things that are legal that can get you high.
Legal's kind of like a weird term because it was more like they were just so under the radar that there wasn't any laws against them.
And they dropped, which is weird.
Yeah.
They just appeared one day.
They just appeared.
Yeah.
And so before I left for college, I had a friend of mine who was like, hey, we're going to try salvia. And I was like, whoa, this is like a psychedelic. This is pretty crazy.
What kind of high is it?
Oh, it's okay. Have you ever heard someone talk about whippets before?
So short, intense, and then done.
Yes. Short, intense, and done. Except it was short, very psychoactive, very I'm not going to say visually hallucinogenic, but there were the vibes. The vibes were psychedelic. Whereas like whippets and stuff, the vibes are more, I guess, euphoric. It's the difference between like ecstasy and mushrooms. Whereas like salvia is more like if you had a momentary, you just kind of got real high on mushrooms or acid real quick, versus whippets, which are more like you just got real buzzed on ecstasy. Anyway, I had fashioned a little water pipe for tobacco use only out of a Gatorade bottle and a glass down stem that I had kept from a broken water pipe for tobacco use only. And I had used this makeshift water pipe for tobacco use only for non-tobacco uses on the beach and had a great time. I distinctly remember I was in this like little cove in the cliff, and it was at low tide, so there was a good like 60 feet between me and where the shoreline was coming in. And did the thing, and in a moment everything silenced except for the actual noises of the ocean itself. And so you would hear the and then I just remember getting this like really really euphoric,
That's relaxing.
like ecstatic feeling in that small bit of silence when you hear the water from the shoreline kind of get sucked up by the wave right before it crashes. And I had like a spiritual experience, I think. Whether spiritual or whatever you want to call it, this was a very formative moment where I was like, this means something. And so later that evening, I go back and we're hanging out in the like common area space, and I'm still coming down off this high, and I'm talking about it with some of my friends. I'm trying to seem cool. Like I'm trying to seem like I'm with it and like I know drugs and like stuff. And at one point, this one girl goes, so like, is that like all you are is just weed? Do you have anything else to contribute to the conversation? And I'm like, nope. And she got me. I was fully just trying to like kind of perpetuate or reinvent this image of myself that was like drugs, man. But like I'm a multi-dimensional person. I was like, that actually kind of rocked me to my core, where I was like, I'm trying to reinvent myself in this new space with people who have never met me before, and I seem to only be fixated on this one singular aspect that I feel like I'm enjoying and that like is opening my mind. But other people are seeing it as a one-dimensional character trait that kind of lacks any depth.
I really want to comment on this because I think one thing, and this is, I think maybe it could be a coastal thing or just a big city thing because I'm surrounded by a lot of people, right? Like in a very small space.
It's dense.
So when it comes to social groups, I was surrounded by people who smoked a lot of weed. That's the thing. People smoke cannabis. They do it all the time. But where, and we've had this conversation before, smoking in New York is kind of a competition.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's like, I'm going to do it as hard as I can because we all do that. I started smoking. I started doing that a little bit. But when it comes to the reality of the situation, like I understand that like there's more to life than just smoking. There's more to our personality. And that's mostly because when I first started going to college, I'd been told by a lot of people like, oh God, people who do this are annoying. And if there was 5 people, one person was like, oh, I'm a stoner. And 4 people were like, yeah, we smoke, but like, it's cool to have other aspects of yourself. So I avoided weed even when I got older because I realized that I knew
stoners are annoying. And
it's not just that.
I was trying to reinvent myself as this stoner, but I think in my head I was trying to be Radagast from The Hobbit, the brown wizard, who's just like nature, peace, love. But instead, I was just kind of coming off as Cheech.
I just realized
from Cheech and Chong, like not even Tommy Chong, just Cheech, who was arguably in the initial Up in Smoke movie, Cheech was more annoying about it than Chong was.
I just realized something. When I first met you, I didn't smoke. I did not smoke, and people who know this, I didn't smoke really until last year. When I first, here's the thing: it's not that I was completely against it. Is that pretty much anybody I'd seen who smoked had some of these bad habits that I just wanted to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first met you, whenever you talked about it, you kind of would talk about it like one of those stoners.
Yeah.
But of course, I feel like, and I'm projecting here, that we gotten closer. We spent a lot of time together. So I started to know you, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, that's not the kind of person you are.
That's a dimension, but it's not the
Sometimes
only. Go.
you might bring a little bit of that with you. I think it's a West Coast thing. I really do. Because people in New York are like, they smoke for competition, but people in the West Coast, they smoke like they're in college and they're just like trying to expand your mind.
Yeah, and it's kind of annoying, but also I kind of, that's the part of it that I appreciate, where I feel like the smoking for competition part, where it's like I'm not trying to get so high to where I don't function in public. If I'm trying to get to that level, I'm going to isolate myself and try to see a pantheon. I'm not just trying to see God. I'm trying to not just meet up. I'm trying to get onto that level where I can just like, where reality, the veil. I'm trying to lift the veil is what I'm trying to do. People here, when y'all smoke, and y'all smoke like for real, y'all not trying to lift the veil. You're trying to cover up some shit. Smoking here seems like a trauma response, whereas smoking in the West Coast seems like escapism.
It's interesting because I think that maybe it might be because cannabis culture from the East Coast is a very black thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you run into like a lot of people of color who smoke, and they smoke very competitively because they are.
Mm.
And I'm not trying to say that, of course, there are people of color in the West Coast, but that's kind of not the.
But that's interesting. You say like in the East Coast, smoking is a black thing.
I mean, but it's not. But
I mean, but like the vibe.
Yeah.
The like in the West Coast, I would say smoking weed is more of a Latino thing.
And I was gonna say that, and I was just about to say that I feel like it's a Latino thing on the West Coast, a Latino and white thing. It's
Well,
complex and
in the
complicated.
West Coast too, we think the Caribbean's part of Latin America. So like,
It's funny because when I was in college, uh, I'm gonna throw it to you one more time before we wrap up. I when I was in school, I wasn't addicted to cannabis.
neither was I.
I was addicted
Oh no.
to getting laid.
Oh no.
All right. So it's so funny because you were talking about smoking and things like that. When I was in school and I had my own office, can you imagine? I want you to imagine.
He said, I did not, I did not puff, but I did inhale.
I was walking down the hallway one day and I saw this, who I thought was a very beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
And we chatted.
Why do you say it like who I thought was a very beautiful woman?
Because what I wanted to say, since you asked, the way that I was thinking at the time
Was it a mirage?
is that I saw this hot girl. That's what I thought. It's like this hot woman.
You said,
and I thought to myself like,
hey there,
damn.
pretty mama.
She was like this hot Latina. She was like she was like wearing glasses. And I remember she had like this really nice smile. She was like really cool. And this is wild. I'm gonna tell you the craziest story. So I had a sociology course. A sociology and a like a public speaking course. It was taught by the same professor.
Uh-huh.
And she was a student in one of those classes. And when I left, she came in and I saw her and I thought she was so pretty. And so we started talking. And I was like, oh, I have an office. You should come say hello. She didn't. But the next time that I was to class, I was like, oh, I know she's going to be there. So I waited a little bit. I wasn't trying to follow her around or anything. I was trying to run into her so I could talk to her. And then she, I guess maybe she was busy or missed that day or maybe a little bit late. So I left. You know, I didn't fucking stand there like a weirdo. You see, if you just a side note, men. If you meet somebody and you think they're attractive and maybe you want to run into them because you take the same train together, perhaps you could wait for them a little bit, but then continue about your day. Don't be a fucking weirdo.
Don't just hang. Don't make your day around. Can I tell you how many just fleeting crushes I had in college because I was like, I could wait to talk to this person, or I'm already a little too high to try to socially engage, and I kind of want to go back to my apartment, get a little food, and get a little bit more high. And so you're saying you were addicted to getting laid. My cannabis tendencies kept me from pursuing anything of that sort.
Wow. I could never imagine. So I need you to imagine. All right. This is a beautiful woman. She's I thought she was so gorgeous. And one day, I remember very, very vividly, I waited for her and she didn't come. So I just went about my day. Then, like a week later, I ran into her again, coming out of the same class, because I didn't wait there every day like a fucking weirdo. And we became like kind of friends. And then she came down with me to the office. We used to flirt all the time. We would play songs like things that were big in 2012, like Somewhere I Belong.
Linkin Park.
Or there were some songs, no.
Somewhere I Belong.
No. What is it? No, that's what it's called. What's the song by Guillote?
Oh, Somebody That I Used to
Somebody used to know. We used to play that and like Kate There were these romantic songs like Kate McKinnon, who's like this small artist.
No,
and
Kate McKinnon's the SNL alum.
What is it? The woman has the same name. Different person.
Huh. I learned something new today.
Kate McKinnon was like this small YouTube kind of singer who would sing like these kind of lovey kind of country songs. And I would bring this woman down to my class, to the office. And one day she needed help. She was like, "Oh, can you come with me?" She was like, they were like, "Oh, bring in people because they're gonna do not a test, but I think the math teacher or the calculus teacher was like, hey, if you could bring somebody in, and then we can question them and give them calculus, it'd be fun." So she brought in her daughter. So I was like, cool. So her daughter Annie. So I go. And I'm like, she's like, yeah, can you just support us and stuff? So I go and I'm supporting them. Tell me how she was dating somebody like really long term. And I used to bring her. And this is crazy. I used to take her to the office and we would like make out and stuff.
And her daughter was there?
No, her daughter was at home with her boyfriend. And she'd be like, yeah, I don't really trust her with him. And I don't know. Not that he was doing anything wrong to her, but she thought that.
And again, you had an office not because you were a professor or nothing.
Because I was in charge of.
Because you were president of a handful of clubs.
The the math masters, the success, and the engineering.
So you held no university authority. It's all above board.
But I just didn't want to go home because I was like, my grandfather had a heart attack. My grandfather had a heart attack. And so he wasn't feeling the best. So I moved from across the street to him to help him. But I didn't want to be at home. So I would stay there till the university closed and she would stay with me. And she would complain about the fact that she would leave her daughter with her boyfriend. And then I used to go to her house. We'd play Risk and stuff with me, her boyfriend, and her daughter. Me, her, and her daughter.
Talk about playing Risk.
We used to go to 34th Street because the school was near there. And we would go and eat pizza and hang out. And me, her, and her daughter would hang out. We became kind of close. And then in hindsight, this is really messed up, but I get it because actually, she was totally cheating on her boyfriend. Even though we weren't having sex, we were doing sexual things in the office.
At the very least, emotional cheating.
Oh, very, very, very. and the school would close at like 12, but like that was only for like professors, but we would stay in there like till 12 in the
At night?
office. Yeah, and she would leave her daughter with her boyfriend, and I went with her. This is fucking crazy. I went with her daughter, and her boyfriend to her daughter's Christmas recital. And I remember being like, wow, this is crazy. And then
You were part of a throuple.
I went with her to her brother's house. Her brother lived on like 23rd Street in the projects there. If you're from New York, you know, outside of the C train.
Wait,
I believe
like in Chelsea?
Well, yes, 23rd Street.
Yeah.
Technically, so it's before Chelsea technically,
okay.
but it's like between Chelsea and like because it's 14th Street, you know, so it's like 23rd Street. Because I used to work at the Starbucks there, but this later. And so we went and we walked over and hung out. We went to the diner there one time with her sister. Then we went to her brother's apartment, who lived in the projects there. And we were hanging out, and you know it's so weird because I was like so into her, like singing these love songs, and it's like weird. I don't know. I don't know. She lived in the Bronx. I used to go take the train to 161 and walk to her house and hang out with her daughter, who must have definitely knew something was going on, and her fucking long-term boyfriend.
How old was the daughter?
Like 8.
Oh, okay.
And we went to her brother's house, and we were in like, I guess they owned. It's actually very weird. There was like a basement or something, and it was like a space, and there was like a television there and a bedroom. It's New York. People live all kinds of ways. And she goes to get up to the bathroom. Her brother goes, "Are you fucking her?" And I was like,
Me?
"What is happening?"
What?
He goes, "Just so you know, you shouldn't because she's a whore." And I was like, "What is it?" I was like, "What is happening here?"
But through the transitive property, that makes you.
Well, here's
a
the thing:
whore.
is that like if she was being a whore, she was because I knew that she was dating somebody for a long time and living with them. You don't understand. Literally, we would leave her apartment. I remember that time we were at her house playing Risk. We left her apartment. We go downstairs, and I hug her, and then we like sneak a kiss. And she was like, "You know, I know." And I'm like, it's like, and that whole time I was like going home, I'm like, God, this is fucking weird. And you know what? I'm not holding it against her solely because we were both slutting it up.
But did it make it kind of hotter?
Honestly, it hurt I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think
my feelings would be a little hurt as well.
She lived. You met my ex,
No.
the tall one. Yes, you did. In the place I used to work. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say their name because I don't know if they want to be participating in this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Lived
Copy.
down the block.
Word.
So then what happened is that they came and we, like, you know, they lived a few blocks away. So it felt like I was going to a place that I knew, a place I was comfortable with, you know. But at the end of the day, I really had like this kind of inflated head because I had an office in a trade school. You know what I mean? Like I had an office in a trade school because I had gone briefly to a better university.
Yeah.
And I'd been educated about the things we were learning before. So I thought I was.
Are you willing to tell us the name of the first school that you went to?
No, I just don't want to. I don't know. I just don't feel like doing it.
No, that's fair. I'm not gonna pressure you
because I didn't get a degree from there. So
I'm just curious.
I didn't get a degree from there.
But you got in.
Yeah, it don't mean nothing.
Well, the only reason I say is because I like to tell people that my mom went to USC and my dad went to UCLA, and somehow they made it work. Notorious California college school rivals. But my dad didn't get his degree from UCLA. He just went there for a little bit, and it's a prestigious flex.
Let me just say,
to get into a school is a prestigious flex. There were plenty of schools I didn't get into that I'm like, fuck you though.
The school that I went to, it's so good that it's embarrassing that I didn't even last a quarter of a semester there.
Before you had to leave?
Yeah. So that's why I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Because it was really, that was a whole thing.
All right. then I'm not gonna pressure it anymore.
Did you have any slutty stories or difficult? Listen, can I just say, if you are watching this,
Wait, how much time do we have left?
none. But listen, I got time for like 10 minutes, right? Listen, okay. For you, we got 9 minutes. If you're watching this, person, I liked you, I cared about you, and it was just so weird because it's so funny because she didn't just bring me around her daughter. Me and her daughter have become so close, which is why I say her daughter's name and not hers.
Oh, wow.
Because really, she made a lot of mistakes. I did too, but let's be real, I didn't have a child. I didn't have the responsibility. And in hindsight, I think I'm as culpable, actually. I take that back. I feel like I'm as culpable because she told me he wasn't like doing bad things to the daughter, but she told me that she didn't feel comfortable really having him raise her daughter because he would sometimes not snap, but he was not always. Honestly, in hindsight, he was probably just being normal to the daughter. But what she said was that he wasn't always nice and blah, 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 you know. And I was like, okay, but I met him and he was nice. I played games with him and he was nice. I interacted on her daughter's birthday and I just feel like it was just a very low kind of gross thing that we both did. And so, I kind of regret that. Do you have any stories equal to that? I win. It's New York, even with stories.
No, I don't have anything equal to that. I will say I did get my first STD in college. Treatable. Bless up for that one.
I never had an STD.
Well, then you didn't live hard enough.
Okay, hold on. Can I just say, to compound how bad I was, I need to say this. Because I don't want it to be misconstrued that I was talking to or dating someone who had a kid. I knew she had somebody who effectively was like her husband that she'd been living with, right? But let's be real. I was dating somebody at the time, so I was being dishonest to them.
Scandalo.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to put all the burden on her. It just, we were all just misbehaving. And I don't know, it wasn't good.
Misbehaving.
What about you, Chanley, before we wrap up?
How much time we got? We got no time. So the cliff notes.
We have 6 minutes.
I kind of added in a little last minute, like as we summarize our college experiences here. I felt like my college experience can be summarized best through yearly albums. And so for the first one, my freshman year, I lived in the dorms that were almost beachside, but the particular dormitory I lived in hadn't been renovated since the 70s compared to the rest of the dormitories, which were either newly developed or had, generational renovations. So to go with my freshman year, Plastic Beach by the Gorillaz. It was also
Banging.
One of the first like full Gorillaz albums I really got into, and I feel like that the entire thing, Melancholy Hill, Clint Eastwood, all of that. Just although now that I say that, I think Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood is
B-sides.
From What? Yeah.
Empire Ants. That's the other one. A lot of those songs just kind of encapsulated the vibe of moving from my suburban parental home or childhood home into a new place with new people and new things, and just kind of the confluence of emotions that came with that. My sophomore year, I was in the off-campus dormitory apartments, still with the same friends. I explored a little bit more in psychedelics and stuff like that. Ended up at one point, I took mushrooms, went to the beach, had a great time, came back, took a shower, was super dehydrated, came out of the shower, sat down to try to gather myself, and then just kind of passed out and may have inadvertently given myself a concussion. Then came back into my dorm room, said to my roommate, I'm like, "Hey, is the back of my head bleeding?" And he goes, "You got a little cut back there." And I said, "Okay, I know you guys are gonna go out and party. Would you mind just putting some music on so that I don't fall asleep, but so like I have something to listen to while I just kind of shake this off because I was still coming down from the mushrooms." That album was the Alice in Chains Unplugged album, and that will forever have a very special place in my heart. Um, Junior year, have you ever listened to the like experimental studio album Surf by Donnie Trumpet and the Social Experiment?
Hilariously, no, but I know of that album. Yeah.
So this was when we moved into our little group, our little clique that had stayed together since freshman year. We had moved into our little cramped beachside apartment in a bigger complex that at any given moment could just be swept off the cliff and into the ocean. Feel like that album of just like the vibes. It's all about the vibes. It's like marimba vibes. It's like a little bit of hip hop. It's like a slip, 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 swing kind of vibe. It's a fantastic album. Surf by Donnie Trumpet, senior year at UC Santa Barbara. And then the very last one. Now, I only went to class for half of that year because I had accumulated the necessary credits to graduate, didn't want to pay for the last quarter. And so instead, I just worked at the on-campus catering company that I had a job with from prior, and just vibed out. I was just a working boy. I was in a relationship, had a girlfriend at this time, and I was just kind of coasting without too much direction, but there was a definite finality of like, we made it. Like, this is it. Almost closing credits sequence. And that album, I think, could be defined by At Long Last ASAP by ASAP Rocky. And that featured songs such as LSD and Excuse Me, which had, I think, Rod Stewart featured on the track. But just those are the four albums that whenever I go back and listen to them, they can take me back to that exact point in time, and I can kind of just feel myself jump into that consciousness of like, that's the vibe of what's going on.
It's so strange because I hadn't even thought about it. But when it comes to music at that time, there's like a weird thing where I think my second two or the last year of college, I was dating my ex A who you met.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't really dating, but we were talking, spending a lot of time together. We would like take a cab from her house and it would drop me in Midtown because she would continue to work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like to save money, she would let me like pick you back on her ride. Oh no, because she worked on the west side, so I used to go to the east side.
Mm-hmm.
So she would drop me off, and then I would just walk to school because it was actually very close. And we connected over music. So a lot of the music that we connected over at that time was stuff from what we used to do in the Bronx, like underground, hardcore, hard rock, ska core, all kinds of like really fun local
Were you
music.
two-stepping? Were you hitting
But
were you skanking?
but also, like, somebody I used to know. There's a song, I think, by the same artist called. Oh God,
Wait.
it's about having a kid. By
Gautier
Guilty.
had another song.
I know, right?
What?
What was it again? It was about having a kid, and we used to play all these songs, and also the person that I had been talking to who had the kid at the time, I had introduced him to the Antword. I remember when I Think You Freaky came out. No, I introduced him to I Think You're Freaky, but Fatty Boom Boom had come out that year. I think it was 2012. And I remember having her in the office and like playing it and being, I was like, man, it's so weird because I went to college when I was your age, when you went to college. But what happened was, I actually went to 3 schools.
Yeah.
Right before you wrap up, I went to one school because I was in New York and I had to.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to down south, and I got into another school. It was a pretty good school. And then I had to come back to New York. The first and the last school were trade schools. I thought you were going to do it the other way.
You thought?
It's so weird how music is so important. And I think that the kids now are different. I think
Kids these days just don't get how music can transcend reality.
Kids are still into music, of course, but I think that media is different. So it's a mixture of music, videos, TikToks, YouTube videos, and podcasts. Like this one.
That's
like,
us.
Was that in good taste? A podcast where we... Wait, hold on. I don't remember the copy, so I'm going to pull it up.
A podcast where you can learn about the before times, think about the now times, and pontificate on the future times.
Here's the thing. I don't think this copy is the best, but I just like it, and I just want it. And I have to look up. You know what I have to do? I had to go to twitter.com/was that in good taste to find it.
Oh my goodness. Is that where they can find this kind of content?
Well, that's where not only they can find this kind of content, but they can also find every Wednesday at 3:00 me going live, co-watching the brand new episode that drops every Wednesday at 3
p.m.
Unless you subscribe via Spotify, iTunes, or a podcatcher where you get it at 6 a.m.
Oh,
Whatever, it's the morning. It's before you go to work.
Drops.
He's
got copy for this.
Because I don't know if you know this, we are a podcast where we explore topics with a blend of humor, insight, and good taste. And bad taste.
And bad. Thank you for listening to our college reflection retrospective. This has been a blast for me to relive the past.
It's so funny. We do this all the time, and it's like, man, we have so many episodes to follow up on, to do again. You know why?
Why's that?
Because I think that we're doing something pretty good here, but you know what? We don't know. Unless you do what? Unless you let us know.
Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, drinking is not required.
But it is recommended.
Oh,
man. I honestly, can I tell you something?
What's up?
I kind of miss college a little bit. I had such a good time.
I had such a great time. I got a pee so bad. I really